Una pedrada. A nosotros, pedradas. Mm, ya tú me dices. Por eso mi niña amada, estoy de su alma, su maestro, frente persona. Pero si ya no nos falta, tus naranjas. Que aquella tarde amarga. Al momento de salir en sus altares, vienen a convidar a sentirme, vienen a convidar a que no pierda, vienen a convidar a indefinirme, vienen a convidar a tanta mierda. Divino, como vivir. Oh, me lo he perdido. Quiero ser a la sorda más que diestra. Quiero ser un congreso del mío. Quiero rezar a fondo un hijo nuestro. Eso de moda la locura. Pero que la gente es mala y no merece. Yo seguiré soñando travesuras. A multiplicar panes y peces. Alfonso, you up first, man.
So Harvey, it took me about um, close to 3 years. Close to 3 years. First 2 years were pretty bad. Third year, I got a mentor and started to turn things around, and was break even for a while, and then started to turn the corner thereafter. Yeah, I mean, 3 years was because I didn't have any sort of access to something like warrior trading, right? There was nothing out there 10 years ago. So um, you really were just taking shots in the dark, buying or selling everything that moves. And, obviously that's not a strategy. So yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea, is to, take the courses, watch what we're doing in the mentor session, be able to ask questions. And, I truly believe if I had access to a course like we have, or any course, or a chat room, or even a mentor session, I truly believe I would have cut that easily in half, easily, and cut the losses in half too. So I really firmly believe that if I had some sort of education from the get-go, then I wouldn't have been longer than a year and a half, maybe. So I lost about 150 grand over 3 years. Um, it's a lot of money. Well, that was one of the biggest things, is that I knew what this was capable of if I could get it right. I knew what it's capable of, so I was willing to go to lengths that most people probably wouldn't go. I risked quite a lot of things, and just because I knew the potential was there. If this were some other job that I knew that the cap was, $100,000 salary or something, then obviously I wouldn't have taken the measures that I did. But I knew that, that 150K in losses I could easily recoup in a couple months if I was able to get it, turned around. So, just because of the potential I knew that it had. I started, I traded in college. Um, And then, so it's been about, let's see, about 11 years. 11 years trading. First 3 of those were disaster. David, yeah, I started with real money. Yeah, I mean, you didn't know any better. You know, there was nothing out there to tell you to trade with a simulator or, you know, why trade with a simulator when I can just jump right in and under the impression I could press some buttons and make some money. And it was just that one room, or it was just that one day that you had a decent win would keep you going, even though I'd blow out my account every month. Yeah, I was trading the day of the flash crash. Yeah, I actually did make a lot of money that day, just because you could have pretty much bought anything and made a ton of money. I mean, anyone could have done that. So, but I gave that all back thereafter. Holding me back in the beginning was just the fact that I couldn't manage my risk. I was able to hit great wins. I was able to hit really nice wins. That was never an issue of mine. The issue was holding on to those, because there'd be a couple days of the month where, you know, I would just completely blow it all out, give it all back. And that was a big problem. Which just proves that, you know, you could have a strategy that you think works and you do all right with, but if you can't manage the risk, none of that matters. But if you just kind of find something that works for you and stay consistent with it, keep working on it. Don't try to spread yourself too thin on trading 5 different strategies or, you know, all times of the day. You should definitely be able to pick it up relatively quickly. And by pick it up, I don't really mean making a ton of money. You know, I mean maintaining pretty much break even. If you can maintain break even, or, you know, slightly green, or even just slightly red, that shows that you're being able to manage your risk. If you can manage your risk, if you can maintain that kind of flat zone, then the upside will come. It will. But if you can't, then that's where you're going to have trouble. Yeah, one of the things that really helped me, and this is why you see me still do it today, is just only waiting for the stuff that has that home run potential. I reduce my frequency by, you know, factors of 10. I mean, I just don't really trade that much, but when I do, I become aggressive. So that was one of the things that really helped me, because as I traded more and more, I just gave it back. So that's something that was a big issue for me, is just constantly trading. And once I started to do that, I noticed a big difference, because that means I don't have to manage my risk as much. And if I know that my ability to hit wins is pretty good, then I'll just wait until those opportunities present themselves, and that does two things for me. It puts me for a very high probability the trade will win. If it doesn't, I only have to manage my risk once, as opposed to trading 10 times a day and being forced to manage it like that, because it's just not something I really want to do. Alan, not really. I mean, I will trade, in some situations, like the flash crash is a great example. They just, that stuff doesn't happen often, but, you get a big move like that on a stock. PCG was a good example. You have days of stocks like that, then that may be something that I'll trade for, kind of a reversal or a contra trade. But those trades are really high risk, and they're much more advanced. So I try to steer clear of them. But I will trade those in some situations when you have big news pieces like that. I used to trade news a lot more, but it's definitely a tougher. It's a different animal. Jordan, so why did I trade the large caps over small caps? Well, it's funny. In the beginning, it was back in, I think it was 2010 or 11. Me and Ross were trading small caps, and we trade every day, and I didn't really, for something about it, I couldn't really grasp, being in and out so fast. And I never really could get a consistent hold on that. The problem that I had is I was always hold way too long, and I'd be way in the hole, because you guys all know how those small caps work. You got to be in and out, otherwise they just sell off. And I would hold on way too long, and trying to add back and this and that, and it just wouldn't. It was, as you can imagine, averaging down on those trades is disastrous, and that's exactly what happened. So I started to see that these higher price stocks, you had a little bit more time to maneuver into them, and they would also move for an extended period of time. So I figured, well, if I could just get something started in one of these and slowly, build a position relatively slowly in comparison with small caps, if I could just start to slowly get a position going and then let the stock move, I felt it would be much easier. So that's where me being able to hold for a longer period of time actually was a positive, rather than trying to hold in a stock that has no business of being held. So that's why I ended up trading large caps. It's just people are wired different ways, right? If you ask me to strictly trade the small caps and be able to pay my bills, that wouldn't happen. It'd be very tough. But the same thing if you ask Ross to trade large caps, he'd tell you the same thing. It's not wired that way. So it's just a personal preference thing. Just different strategies. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trading small caps. Listen, I would like to be able to trade them. It's nice to be able to make, a couple $1,000 in a matter of seconds. I wish I could do it, but I'm not going to overextend myself on something that I know I cannot do. Yeah, and the only way you know is by trying it. You won't really know unless you actually trade the strategy for a little bit, give yourself some time. So, in any event, the best thing really is to just understand that you got to be patient. That's, if someone told me that in the beginning that I needed to um, sit and wait and watch more than I'm trading, I would have laughed at them. But 3 years later and $150,000 more, I learned the hard way. And the other thing too is, being relatively new, having exposure is something that just comes with time. That's not something you can learn. So, being able to watch price action like, RH, and knowing that it's not going to work, or knowing that MU yesterday was going to work in the first few seconds. That's just simply by watching stocks days on end for years on end. It becomes instinct, an instinct. Just as if you see, a red light or a green light, you know what to do. You don't have to think about it. You just know what to do. And that's how trading will become once you have enough exposure to price action. You'll know what to expect and how to process all this information in a matter of an instant. But that, again, that's not something you can learn through courses. That's just something you have to learn through exposure. You can learn the basics and how to put that stuff together in the courses, but in order to actually have that skill, it's going to take time. So that's something you have to realize. So the fact, where I was going with that is the fact that you're not trading, even if you're not trading today, there's a lot of value in just watching the price action. So if you didn't trade today because you didn't like the action, then that is a greater advancement than actually trying to take a trade. So I know a lot of the days I would sit and not trade, and there'd be people that were making money, and I felt like I wasn't doing anything or wasn't doing my jobs, sort of say. And but again, what I didn't realize in the moment was that I was actually developing a much more valuable skill, and that's patience, how to process the information, and how far that would actually go in the long run. No, I don't take individual notes. You'll just know. You'll know by stocks. Just you see them over and over and over again. Stocks go in and out of play, and you'll know how they trade from past experiences, past trades, past good trades, past horrible trades. You'll just know. So there's no indicator. There's no indicator that is going to tell you what momentum is. It's just by price action and volume. I don't have a class on hotkeys. Mine are very simple. It's very simple. It's either buy or sell, marketable limit, or it's a complete out, right? Buy full position or close full position. I don't get too advanced with those because it more room for error. So as far as profits go, it kind of depends. I try to stay in the. It just depends on the year, but typically average around like 40 to 50 a month. So that's kind of the goal. Some months will be much bigger, and some months will be smaller. But just part of it. It all evens out. Yeah, I mean, it just becomes a way of. I mean, there's profits at the end of the day, no question, but it, uh, it's kind of just a way of keeping score. You know, um, you know, $1,000 loss or 2,000, 3,000, $4,000 loss. Yeah, it sucks, no question. But at the end of the day, it's just a way of keeping score. That's how I look at it, and take a couple steps back. Or actually, I don't even look at it like that. I just look at it as, today's a day that didn't really work, and come back at it tomorrow. I don't. If you get too high or get too low, you're just going to be a wreck. You'll never be able to maintain a level head. So you just try to go at it with stay as even keel as you can. Even when you have a big win, last month I had the big win on SQ for 17,000. Yeah, I mean, of course I was happy and it was a nice day and this and that, but that doesn't mean I stop trading for 6 months and go off and celebrate. I come back and try to do it again the next day. So again, it's just a way of keeping score. I won that day, so come back and try to win the next day, not just, or if you lose that day. Typically don't look at, I look at my P&L at the end of the day, obviously, to post it for you guys and that sort of thing, but I don't, during the trade, I don't look at it. I don't really pay much attention to it. My biggest red day? I don't know. It was over 20,000. I know that. I think it was close to 30 actually. But that was back when I didn't know what I was doing. It was actually on a news play, got halted, opened much lower, tried to add to it. It's just that was a day pretty much blew out an entire account just in one day. So, and that was a point where I think that was towards the end of like the second year or halfway through, and I just said, you know what, I got to figure out some other way to learn this properly. Otherwise, it's probably going to be the end of it. What did I do before I started trading? I was in private equity, so we funded a lot of small cap companies that penny stock basically. So that's why I originally got into trading because these companies would give us stock, and we would sell out of it. So I would trade out of the stock, and that was what kind of got me interested in the market. Is that if I was doing these deals with small cap companies, and had a lot of downtime, so I wanted to learn how to day trade. Billy, I'm a short-sided trader, probably 99% of the time. The short-sided trades definitely move a little bit more force, just simply because of the way people react. Right? People tend to panic as soon as they don't like something, especially with a stock, or especially when they're losing money. So panic makes people do irrational things, and that's just get rid of the position right before evaluating it. So, when you have these situations where there's panic involved, the short trade is definitely a lot easier. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to trade to the long side. If the setup does present itself, the type that I like, then I'll trade it. But it's a very rare situation. TOL, no, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to trade today, guys. It's just at that point that we haven't seen momentum. So part of the deal is sitting tight, waiting for the big ones to hit. Again, I'm not saying there's not a trade here. There wasn't a trade, but it's not the type of trading that I'm going to do. So I'm just going to sit tight. I'll be here. If you guys have questions, just let me know.
country's inflation rate will rise to 1,000,000%. More than 1 billion Venezuelans have lived in Colombia in recent years.
Hello?
Colombia is doing something that you don't see very often. It's opening its doors and it's letting people in. The border crosses the shock of a real humanitarian crisis. The economic crisis there is about to get worse.
To a point at which Colombia and other countries in Latin America step in and say enough is enough.
This border town of Bogota is now totally bustling. This is the very end of the border right as people are entering. So the one thing that you'll hear that is a little interesting is se compra cabello. We buy hair. To continue on their way to make some money is the women will sell their hair. Basically get 100,000 pesos, which is like $30. I'm eating a Venezuelan style hot dog. And the guys are reflecting on how much this hot dog would cost if they were trying to buy in Venezuela with the current economic situation.
87% of the country's households into poverty.
Images that we have just never seen in Latin America before is unfortunately something we're seeing now.
The collapse of Venezuela didn't happen because of a civil war or a natural disaster, but rather the colossal economic mismanagement by the country's leader, Nicolás Maduro. In just a few years, Maduro grabbed control of most of the government and then drove the country into an economic disaster worse than the Great Depression and the fall of the Soviet Union.
Mucha gente pobre, con hambre, que no se consigue medicina, la enfermedad de los niños, las vacunas.
En Venezuela ahorita un almuerzo sale un riadero. Of the 2 million people who have left Venezuela in the midst of this crisis, about 1 million have come to Colombia, easily more than any other country. The response by most countries in the region has been to put up new measures to stop migrants from flooding into their country, but not Colombia. Here, the border stays relatively easy to cross. And even though Colombia already has millions of its own people in need of humanitarian assistance, the Colombian people and politicians continue to let these migrants in.
So I have decided that we're not going to close the border. We have to give them support.
Now we're in the refugee camp, as they're calling it, and here the government provides all sorts of services to these people.
Hay odontología, hay asistencia legal, asesoría psicológica.
Haircuts and manicures. Today in the camp they're playing music, some Colombian, some Venezuelan, and everyone, locals, migrants, starts singing and clapping along.
No nos dividen fronteras, tenemos un
The Colombian government has given most of these migrants status, allowing them to live in the country, get health care, work, and study for 2 years. But it's not just the Colombian government opening its doors. In a neighborhood near the border, people have started taking migrants into their homes, indefinitely and for free.